Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Quotes 365. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt the sting of someone losing interest in you? Maybe it was someone you were deeply invested in, and suddenly their attention faded. It's confusing, frustrating, and let's be honest, downright painful. You start asking yourself a million questions. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Can I fix this? These thoughts can consume you, pulling you into a spiral of doubt and overthinking. But here's the thing, folks. The key to reattracting someone isn't in chasing after them, pleading for answers, or trying to prove your worth. No, that only pushes them further away. Instead, the answer lies in shifting your focus inward, regaining your emotional balance, and tapping into the powerful principles of Stoicism. In today's video, we're going to unpack exactly how you can do that. First, let's talk about why this happens. When someone pulls away, it's easy to assume it's entirely your fault. But more often than not, their loss of interest has less to do with you and more to do with emotional dynamics. How attraction ebbs and flows based on confidence, boundaries, and emotional self-control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And folks, that's the foundation of everything we're going to explore today. Focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and self-worth. Let's address the elephant in the room. Chasing someone when they've lost interest doesn't work. Why? Because desperation and neediness are the ultimate repellents. It signals that your happiness depends on them, which not only burdens them, but also diminishes your own value in their eyes. Folks, the solution isn't to chase, it's to attract. And the good news? You already have everything you need to do that within you. In today's video, we'll walk through 7 key steps rooted in Stoic principles to help you regain control, rebuild your confidence, and naturally reattract their attention. First, we'll uncover the root of the problem, understanding what causes someone to pull away in the first place. Then, we'll dive into emotional dynamics, exploring how emotions influence attraction and connection. From there, we'll discuss why not chasing but attracting is a game changer in restoring balance. But that's just the beginning. You'll learn why it's crucial to resist emotional confessions, those heart-on-your-sleeve moments that can sometimes do more harm than good. We'll also explore how to manage anger and ego so you can respond with grace instead of impulsivity. And of course, we'll focus on rebuilding from within by building your self-worth, a cornerstone of any healthy relationship dynamic. Finally, we'll talk about what to do when she returns and how to navigate that moment with clarity and confidence. Now, folks, I want you to keep this in mind. Reattracting someone isn't about manipulating or controlling them. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, someone who radiates confidence, strength, and emotional balance. When you focus on these Stoic principles, you not only increase your chances of reattracting their attention, but you also create a foundation for a healthier, more fulfilling connection. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone pulled away and you didn't know how to respond? What did you do, and how did it make you feel? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences and insights. And before we dive into these life-changing steps, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Here at Stoic Relationships, we're all about giving you the tools to navigate love and relationships with wisdom and resilience. By subscribing, you'll stay connected with more insights to help you grow and thrive. All right, folks, let's get started. Number 1, the root of the problem. Hey folks, let's start with the first and most important step, understanding the root of the problem. When someone loses interest, our first instinct is often to blame ourselves. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Am I not good enough? These thoughts spiral quickly, pulling you into self-doubt and anxiety. But here's the thing, losing interest isn't always about you. In fact, most of the time, it's about dynamics, timing, and underlying emotional triggers that we're not even aware of. Let's dig deeper into this. Attraction is emotional. It's not something you can logically control or force. When someone starts to pull away, it's often because the emotional connection has shifted. Maybe it feels too heavy, too unbalanced, or simply too predictable. Humans are wired to crave novelty and balance in relationships. When those elements fade, so does the spark. Folks, this isn't about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that attraction is fluid and influenced by a mix of internal and external factors. Here's where the Stoic perspective comes in. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, instead of fixating on their behavior, focus on understanding the dynamics at play. Why? Because clarity is the first step to regaining control, not over them, but over your emotions and actions. One common root cause of lost interest is emotional imbalance. Picture this. You're deeply invested in someone, but they're starting to pull away. Naturally, you want to fix it. So you lean in harder, texting more, asking for reassurance, or trying to prove your worth. But folks, here's the truth. The harder you chase, the further they'll retreat. Why? Because this creates an emotional imbalance where you're giving too much and they're giving too little. Attraction thrives on balance, and when that balance tips, it disrupts the connection. Another reason someone might lose interest is the lack of mystery or challenge. This doesn't mean playing games. It's about maintaining your individuality and not overexposing yourself emotionally too soon. When you make someone the center of your world, it can feel overwhelming for them and leave you feeling vulnerable. Instead, focus on keeping your life full and dynamic outside of the relationship. But let's not ignore the possibility that the problem may also stem from their own emotional state. Sometimes, people pull away because they're dealing with their own fears, insecurities, or baggage. It's not your job to fix them, but understanding this can help you stop taking their behavior personally. Folks, detaching yourself from their actions doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying the emotional weight that isn't yours to bear. Now, how do we start addressing these root causes? The first step is self-awareness. Reflect on the dynamics of the relationship. Ask yourself, was I giving too much too soon? Did I lose focus on my own life while trying to maintain the connection? These questions aren't about self-blame. They're about gaining insight so you can make intentional changes moving forward. Here's a practical tip. Take a step back and create space. This isn't about ignoring or manipulating them. It's about recalibrating the emotional balance. When you focus less on them and more on yourself, you naturally shift the dynamics. Folks, people are drawn to those who are confident, centered, and living their own fulfilling lives. When you reclaim your focus, you not only feel stronger, but you also become more attractive. Let me share a story. A friend of mine was in a situation where someone she was seeing started pulling away. Her initial reaction was to chase harder, constantly checking in and trying to fix things. But when she stopped and reassessed the root of the problem, she realized she'd been neglecting her own needs and overinvesting emotionally. So, she shifted her energy back to herself, reconnecting with her hobbies, spending time with friends, and focusing on her personal growth. Folks, the result was incredible. Not only did she feel more empowered, but the other person noticed the shift and started re-engaging on their own. Here's the takeaway for this first step. Before trying to fix the situation, pause and understand why it's happening. Is the emotional balance off? Are you overgiving? Or is the other person dealing with something you can't control? When you identify the root of the problem, you gain clarity, and clarity is power. Let me know in the comments. What do you think is the biggest factor in someone losing interest? Is it emotional imbalance, lack of connection, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective. All right, folks, now that we've uncovered the root of the problem, let's move on to understanding the emotional dynamics at play. This next step will help you navigate the situation with even more clarity and confidence. Stick around, you won't want to miss it. Number 2, emotional dynamics. Hey folks, now that we've uncovered the root of the problem, let's dive deeper into one of the most critical aspects of attraction. Emotional dynamics. Relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, are built on emotions. They're the invisible thread that ties us together. But what happens when that thread starts to fray? Understanding emotional dynamics is the key to not only identifying the issue, but also resetting the balance in any connection. Let's start with a basic truth. Emotions are contagious. Have you ever been around someone who's constantly anxious or frustrated? Chances are you started feeling that way too. On the flip side, being around someone calm and confident often puts you at ease. This principle is at the heart of emotional dynamics, how your emotions influence others and vice versa. In relationships, emotional dynamics often shift when one person becomes overly reliant on the other for validation or happiness. Folks, this isn't about judgment. It's human nature. We want to feel valued and secure, but when those needs turn into emotional dependence, it can tip the balance of the relationship. Think of it like a scale. If one side becomes too heavy, the connection starts to feel off. Here's where Stoicism offers incredible insight. Epictetus reminds us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Emotional dynamics thrive when both people feel balanced and in control of their reactions. If you're constantly reacting to their behavior, whether it's by over-pursuing or withdrawing completely, you're handing over your emotional power. Instead, the goal is to maintain your own equilibrium, no matter what's happening on their end. Let's look at an example. Imagine you've been texting someone you're interested in, and suddenly their replies slow down. Your first instinct might be to panic. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? This anxiety can lead to over-texting, seeking reassurance, or even confrontation. But folks, these reactions often push the other person further away because they sense the imbalance in emotional dynamics. Instead, take a step back and focus on maintaining your emotional calm. Respond, but don't overreact. Give them space to re-engage on their own. One powerful tool to master emotional dynamics is mirroring. This doesn't mean copying their every move. It means aligning your emotional energy with theirs. If they're pulling back, mirror that by creating space for yourself. If they're showing interest, meet them there without going overboard. This balance creates a dynamic where neither person feels overwhelmed or undervalued. Another critical aspect of emotional dynamics is managing expectations. Folks, expectations can be tricky. They're often unspoken but deeply felt. If you expect someone to meet all your emotional needs, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and creating pressure in the relationship. Instead, focus on what you can control, your own emotional state and actions. When you approach relationships with an open mindset rather than rigid expectations, you create a more natural and harmonious dynamic. Let me share a story. A friend of mine was dating someone who started pulling away after a few months. She felt hurt and confused, and her first reaction was to chase harder, calling, texting and asking what went wrong. But when she stepped back and reassessed the emotional dynamics, she realized she'd been projecting her insecurities onto the relationship. Instead of seeking constant reassurance, she focused on building her own emotional resilience. Folks, as soon as she shifted her energy, the other person started re-engaging on their own. It wasn't about manipulation. It was about resetting the balance. So, how do you apply this in your own life? Start by tuning into your emotions. When you feel anxious or reactive, pause and ask yourself, am I acting from a place of balance or fear? This simple question can help you respond intentionally rather than impulsively. Next, practice creating space. When you give both yourself and the other person room to breathe, it allows the dynamic to naturally realign. And remember, folks, emotional dynamics aren't just about what's happening between you and someone else. They're also about what's happening within you. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you focus on regulating your own emotions, you become the steady force in any relationship. And that steadiness is magnetic. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed how your emotions influence the people around you? What's one way you can bring more balance to your emotional dynamics? Drop a quick "I choose balance" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway. Emotional dynamics are the undercurrent of every relationship. When you understand and manage them, you create a foundation for connection that's both authentic and sustainable. Next, we'll explore why chasing never works and how shifting your focus can make all the difference. Stay tuned, folks. You won't want to miss this. Number 3, don't chase. Attract. Hey folks, let's get into one of the most critical principles in relationships. Don't chase, attract. It's a simple rule, but let's be honest, it's also one of the hardest to follow, especially when emotions are involved. When someone starts pulling away, our instincts often scream at us to do the opposite, to chase, to prove our worth, to fight for their attention. But chasing doesn't reattract someone, it pushes them further away. Let's break this down. Why doesn't chasing work? Well, folks, when you chase, you're signaling neediness and insecurity. It's like saying, "I need you to feel whole." And while that's a natural emotion to have, it creates an imbalance in the relationship. The other person feels overwhelmed or pressured, and instead of drawing closer, they instinctively create more distance. Attraction, on the other hand, thrives in balance. It's about mutual curiosity, interest, and respect, not one person constantly trying to close the gap. Here's where Stoicism gives us some timeless wisdom. Epictetus said, "He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." This means that when you chase someone, you're not just seeking them, you're seeking validation, often at the expense of your own peace and self-respect. Instead of pouring energy into chasing, focus on cultivating your own happiness and value. That's the real secret to attracting someone. So, how do you shift from chasing to attracting? It starts with mindset. Folks, people are drawn to confidence and self-assuredness. When you're content in your own life and exude a sense of inner calm, you naturally become more attractive, not just to the person you're interested in, but to everyone around you. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some people just have a magnetic energy? It's not about their looks or status. It's about the way they carry themselves. Let me share a story. A friend of mine was in a relationship where things started to feel one-sided. She found herself constantly reaching out, planning dates, and trying to keep the connection alive. But the more she chased, the less engaged her partner became. Eventually, she decided to stop. Not out of bitterness or manipulation, but out of self-respect. She started focusing on her career, spending time with friends, and pursuing hobbies she loved. Folks, the shift was incredible. Not only did her partner start re-engaging, but she also felt more confident and empowered. By stepping back and living her life fully, she became someone who naturally attracted attention, not someone who had to beg for it. Here's a practical way to put this into action. Focus on being rather than doing. Instead of asking yourself, "What can I do to get their attention?" ask, "How can I become someone I'm proud of?" Whether it's taking up a new hobby, working on your fitness, or reconnecting with old friends, these actions build your sense of self-worth. And folks, nothing is more attractive than someone who's genuinely happy in their own skin. Another key aspect is maintaining emotional composure. When someone pulls away, it's easy to panic and overcompensate. But remember, attraction isn't about pursuing. It's about creating a dynamic where the other person feels drawn to you naturally. This doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means living your life in a way that inspires curiosity and admiration. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Now, let's talk about boundaries. Part of attracting instead of chasing is knowing your own limits. Folks, setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about creating space for mutual respect. When you show that you value your time, energy, and emotions, others will naturally start valuing them too. So, let me ask you, are you chasing someone's attention right now? If so, what would it look like to take a step back and focus on yourself instead? Drop a quick "I choose to attract" in the comments if this resonates with you. Here's the takeaway. Chasing is about seeking. Attracting is about being. When you shift your focus inward, you stop trying to control the other person and start reclaiming your own power. In the next section, we'll discuss why resisting emotional confessions is crucial to maintaining balance and respect in any relationship. Stick around, folks. You won't want to miss it. Number 4. Resist emotional confessions. Hey folks, let's face it, resisting the urge to confess your emotions can be one of the toughest challenges in relationships. When you feel someone pulling away, it's natural to think that sharing how deeply you feel might change things. But here's the reality. Emotional confessions often don't have the effect we hope for. Instead of creating closeness, they can lead to discomfort or even push the other person further away. Let's explore why. When someone hears a heartfelt confession at a time when they're already unsure or distant, it can feel like an emotional weight they're not ready to carry. Imagine someone trying to process their own doubts or emotions, only to suddenly be handed yours as well. Folks, it's not that your feelings aren't valid. They absolutely are. But timing matters, and so does the balance of emotional dynamics in the relationship. Here's a fresh perspective. Think of emotional confessions as placing a flag in the sand too soon. It can feel like you're locking in a commitment before the other person is ready, leaving little room for organic growth in the connection. Stoicism teaches us the importance of patience and balance. As Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Your feelings are within your control. Their response is not. Instead of confessing, focus on creating a space where they feel comfortable re-engaging naturally. Folks, it's not about manipulation. It's about giving them the freedom to come closer without feeling coerced. This might mean showing your care in subtle, non-verbal ways, like being present, consistent, and emotionally steady. These actions speak louder than words and don't overwhelm the other person. Let's look at it another way. Imagine two magnets. If you push them together too forcefully, they repel each other. But when you allow space, they naturally align. Emotional confessions often create that forceful push. while restraint and balance allow for alignment to happen naturally. Now, what can you do when the urge to confess feels overwhelming? One powerful tool is self-reflection. Instead of sharing your emotions outwardly, try channeling them inward. Write them down, or simply take a moment to sit with your thoughts. Ask yourself, what do I hope to achieve with this confession? Is it about connection, or is it about seeking validation? When you answer honestly, you often find that the need for validation can be met internally rather than externally. And here's something to consider. The most meaningful connections are built on mutual understanding and trust, not emotional pressure. By resisting the urge to confess, you're creating a dynamic where both parties can engage at their own pace. Folks, this isn't about holding back your feelings forever. It's about choosing the right time and context to share them. Let's tie this back to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Before making an emotional confession, ask yourself, is this the right time? Is this true to the balance I want in this relationship? When you lead with clarity and calm, your actions reflect your inner strength. And that strength is far more attractive than any impulsive words. So, folks, let me ask you, have you ever felt the urge to share your feelings, only to later realize that waiting would have been the better choice? How did it change your perspective on emotional timing? Let's talk about it in the comments. Drop a quick "I choose calm" if this resonates with you. And before we move forward, if you're finding these insights helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe. Here at Stoic Relationships, we focus on practical tools and Stoic wisdom to help you navigate relationships with strength and clarity. Subscribing keeps you connected to all our latest content. Here's the takeaway. Emotional confessions can feel like the right move in the moment, but restraint often leads to better outcomes. When you focus on creating emotional balance, you open the door for genuine connection rather than reaction. Next up, we'll discuss how managing anger and ego can further stabilize your relationships. Stick around, folks. You won't want to miss it. Number 5. Managing anger and ego. Hey folks, let's talk about two emotions that can derail even the strongest of relationships. Anger and ego. These powerful forces often work together, feeding off each other and creating a storm of miscommunication, hurt feelings, and unnecessary conflict. But here's the good news. When you learn to manage anger and ego effectively, you unlock the ability to stay calm, composed, and centered no matter what's happening around you. Let's start with anger. We've all been there. Feeling that surge of frustration or betrayal when someone pulls away or does something that hurts us. It's easy to let anger take over. But folks, here's the thing. Anger rarely leads to productive outcomes. In fact, it often causes more damage than the original issue. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, how much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it. When you let anger dictate your actions, you give away your power and lose control of the situation. So, how do you manage anger? The first step is recognizing it as it arises. Anger often comes with physical signs. Your heart races, your breathing quickens, your muscles tense. Folks, when you notice these signals, take a moment to pause. A simple technique is to practice deep breathing. Inhale deeply for a count of 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. This calms your nervous system and gives you the space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Now let's talk about ego. If anger is the fire, ego is the fuel. Ego tells us we're entitled to certain outcomes, that we deserve validation, or that we need to prove ourselves right. But folks, here's the truth. Ego is rarely your ally. It creates unnecessary drama and blinds you to what truly matters. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This isn't about lowering your self-worth. It's about letting go of the need to always be right or admired. Managing ego starts with humility. Instead of asking, "Why aren't they giving me what I deserve?" shift your perspective to, "What can I learn from this situation?" When you let go of ego, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation from others. Folks, this doesn't mean you should let people walk all over you. It means you stop tying your self-worth to their opinions or actions. Here's an example to illustrate this. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone who's pulling away emotionally. Your ego might push you to say things like, "After everything I've done for you, how could you treat me this way?" But instead of creating connection, this only deepens the divide. A more constructive approach is to focus on understanding rather than proving a point. You could say, "I feel hurt, but I want to understand where you're coming from." Folks, this subtle shift can change the entire dynamic of the conversation. Now, let's combine anger and ego. When these two emotions collide, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. To manage both, practice what I call the 3 R's. Recognize, reflect, and respond. Recognize the emotion as it arises. Name it without judgment. Reflect on what's fueling it. Is it a genuine issue, or is it your ego taking over? Finally, respond thoughtfully, with clarity and purpose. Here's another tool that Stoicism teaches us: the power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? 5 years? Most of the time, the answer is no. Folks, keeping this long-term perspective can help you let go of minor irritations and focus on what truly matters. Let me challenge you. The next time anger or ego starts to creep in, pause and ask yourself, am I acting from a place of clarity, or am I letting my emotions take the wheel? This small act of mindfulness can make all the difference. Before we move on, if you're finding value in this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Here at Stoic Relationships, we're dedicated to giving you tools to navigate life and relationships with wisdom and strength. Subscribing ensures you won't miss insights like these. Here's the takeaway. Anger and ego are natural, but they don't have to control you. By recognizing their influence and choosing to respond thoughtfully, you reclaim your emotional balance and power. Next, we'll dive into the importance of building your self-worth and how it transforms not just your relationships, but your entire life. Stick around, folks. You won't want to miss this. Number 6, build your self-worth. Hey folks, let's get into one of the most transformative steps in this journey: building your self-worth. If you've ever felt like you're chasing after someone's approval or constantly second-guessing your value in a relationship, this is the section for you. Here's the truth. Your self-worth isn't something that comes from others. It's something you cultivate within yourself. When you recognize and embrace your value, not only do you feel more confident, but others naturally start to see and respect it too. Let's start with the basics. What is self-worth? It's the belief that you are inherently valuable, regardless of your accomplishments, appearance, or relationships. Folks, this is not the same as self-esteem, which can fluctuate based on external factors like success or failure. Self-worth is deeper. It's about recognizing your intrinsic value as a person, simply because you exist. Now, why is self-worth so important in relationships? When you don't value yourself, you often look to others to fill that gap. This can lead to unhealthy dynamics where you overgive, overplease, or tolerate behavior that doesn't align with your values. But here's the thing, The more you rely on someone else to validate your worth, the more power you give them over your emotions. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Folks, building your self-worth means flipping this script, valuing your own opinion of yourself above anyone else's. So, how do you start building your self-worth? First, let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries are a direct reflection of how much you value yourself. When you set healthy limits on your time, energy, and emotions, you're sending a clear message. I respect myself, and I expect others to do the same. Folks, setting boundaries isn't about being cold or distant. It's about protecting your peace. For example, if someone is treating you in a way that doesn't feel right, it's okay to say, "I care about our relationship, but I can't continue if this behavior doesn't change." This isn't selfish, it's self-respect. Next, let's focus on self-talk. The way you speak to yourself matters. Think about it. Would you let a friend talk to you the way your inner critic sometimes does? Probably not. When you catch yourself thinking things like, "I'm not good enough," pause and reframe. Replace that thought with something empowering, like, "I'm doing my best, and that's enough." Folks, building self-worth starts with treating yourself with kindness and compassion. Another key element is investing in your growth. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, whether that's through learning new skills, pursuing hobbies, or prioritizing your health, you naturally start to feel more confident and capable. This isn't about proving your worth to others. It's about proving it to yourself. Think of it like planting seeds. Every small step you take toward growth is a seed that strengthens your self-worth over time. Let's also talk about gratitude. It might sound unrelated, but folks, gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for building self-worth. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, you start to see yourself and your life in a more positive light. Try this. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for about yourself. It could be something as simple as, "I'm a good listener," or "I handled a tough situation with grace today." These small acts of appreciation add up to a stronger sense of self-worth. Here's an important reminder. Building self-worth isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. It's okay to have days where you doubt yourself or feel like you've fallen short. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself, no matter what. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Define who you want to be, and let your actions align with that vision. Let me ask you, what's one small step you can take today to build your self-worth? Maybe it's setting a boundary, speaking kindly to yourself, or taking time to do something you love. Drop a quick "I choose self-worth" in the comments if this resonates with you. And folks, if this conversation is inspiring you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Here at Stoic Relationships, we're all about helping you unlock your full potential with tools and wisdom to navigate life and relationships. Here's the takeaway. Building your self-worth is the foundation for healthy, balanced relationships. When you value yourself, you naturally attract people and experiences that reflect that value. In the next section, we'll explore how to handle those pivotal moments when someone comes back into your life. Stick around. You won't want to miss it. Number 7, when she returns. Hey folks, we've arrived at the final step. What to do when she returns. It's a moment you've likely imagined countless times. She comes back, and suddenly, all the emotions you thought you'd processed come rushing back in. Excitement, hope, maybe even a bit of apprehension. So, how do you navigate this moment with clarity and confidence? First, let's ground ourselves in Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, receive without pride, let go without attachment. This isn't about playing it cool or pretending you don't care. It's about staying balanced. When someone returns, it's easy to get caught up in the rush of validation. She's back. That must mean I've done something right. But folks, your worth doesn't hinge on someone else's decision to come back into your life. Your self-worth, as we discussed earlier, is independent of external circumstances. Let's break this moment down. The first thing to recognize is that her return doesn't automatically mean the relationship will pick up where it left off. People come back for many reasons: curiosity, regret, or even loneliness. Before diving back in, take a moment to assess her intentions. Is she genuinely interested in rebuilding something meaningful, or is this just a momentary impulse? Folks, clarity here is key. Don't let the desire for reconnection cloud your judgment. Next, reflect on how you've grown during her absence. You've worked hard to rebuild your self-worth, manage your emotions, and focus on becoming the best version of yourself. This is your chance to set the tone for any future interaction. Instead of falling back into old patterns, approach the situation with the strength and wisdom you've gained. Ask yourself, does this person align with the version of myself I've become? Now, let's talk about boundaries. When someone returns, it's important to communicate your expectations clearly. This doesn't mean presenting a list of demands. It's about expressing what matters to you in a calm and confident way. For example, you might say, "I'm open to reconnecting, but I value honesty and consistency in my relationships." Folks, setting boundaries early creates a foundation of mutual respect. Another crucial aspect is pacing. It's tempting to dive back in head first, especially if you've been hoping for this moment. But rushing can lead to the same dynamics that caused issues before. Take your time. Rebuilding trust and connection is a process, not an overnight event. As Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Let the relationship evolve naturally, without forcing it. Here's a practical tip. Focus on actions, not just words. When she returns, listen to what she says, but pay closer attention to what she does. Is she consistent? Does she follow through on her intentions? Actions reveal far more about a person's commitment than their words ever could. Now, let's flip the perspective. Imagine she's returning because she sees the changes in you, the growth, the confidence, the emotional balance. Folks, this is a powerful reminder that your journey isn't just about her return. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be, regardless of the outcome. Whether the relationship rekindles or not, you've already won by prioritizing your growth and self-respect. Finally, remember that it's okay to walk away if the situation no longer serves you. Sometimes, people return out of curiosity or unresolved emotions, but that doesn't mean they're ready to offer the connection you deserve. Walking away isn't a failure. It's an act of self-respect. As the Stoics teach us, true strength lies in our ability to let go of what we cannot control. Here's the takeaway. When she returns, approach the moment with clarity, balance, and self-respect. Assess her intentions. Stay true to your boundaries, and let the relationship evolve naturally if it aligns with the person you've become. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. You've already done the work to build a life you can thrive in, with or without her. Hey folks, thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, reattracting someone isn't about manipulation or changing who you are. It's about rediscovering your own strength, building your self-worth, and leading with clarity and balance. These Stoic principles aren't just tools for relationships, they're tools for life. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to hit subscribe and join our growing Stoic relationships community. Let me know in the comments which step you found most helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care of yourselves, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.